So I'm going to be making a backpack today. I've got this really cool kind of, it's like abstracty, a bit random needlepoint work that I'm going to be using for the front panel. And then for the back, I'm a bit I've been having a look. So I normally use kind of one pair of trousers. I'll put a picture, hopefully be able to put a picture of the kind of backpack that one of my old backpacks that I make, so you've got an idea. So usually for the outside, I'll use a pair of trousers. As you can imagine with this one, I was having like a little bit of like, what am I going to use that's really going to accentuate and not like dull down the pattern? Because I had some red ones. There was this one. I thought like it kind of goes, but it kind of brings the whole thing down a bit, kind of mutes it all a bit. So they were out. And then one that I really like, colour-wise, was grey. However, I've only got kind of 1.5 legs of that. That's not going to be enough. I've also got this kind of half a leg of black as well. So I'm considering perhaps doing a bit of a like monochrome mix and match thing scenario with these two pairs of trousers. I'm gonna kind of lay the pattern on, see what I've got. Yeah. The thing is with the kind of the way I like to upcycle it, I usually try and go for like not making it look obviously upcycled. So although it would be made from a pair of trousers, you wouldn't know that when you looked at it. Like I do love it when you can see something, you can obviously see what it was before and what it is now. I like that. But I think like for my own satisfaction in the making of something, I like it to kind of look like it was always meant to be whatever it is, and then it just so happens to have been made out of whatever it was made out of. And that's kind of how I like to do it. So a little bit of a quandary with this then, because using a few different pairs of trousers, I don't want it to look like it was like that because it had to be. Like I don't want it to look like I only had 1.5 legs of a trouser, so therefore it's all mixed matched, you know what I mean? So the front's going to be kind of this shape. I think it's a really cool and interesting pattern. It'll be quite interesting, see how it comes out. So these are the bits that I'm going to have to squeeze out of what I've got here. So I've got one long bit for the bottom. These are the two top bits, the back and the front pocket. Whereas I normally cut the back, I lay it down the middle of a seam. That's not going to work with these. The thing is, I could have it all kind of checkerboard, kind of the front grey and black, the back opposite grey and black, and then a grey and a black. But then I'm thinking, is that going to be a bit like Avril Lavigne, a bit too 90s emo? Should I go for the checkerboard? Or is it going to look... Oh. Do you know what? It's just quite risky sometimes, because when you're making one-of-a-kind things, like you've already put that time into it before you've A, made it and seen whether it looks good, and then B, whether it looks good enough for somebody else to buy it and reimburse you for that time that you've already spent on it. So you're risking your time quite a lot. But I don't really believe in playing it safe all the time. So let's go for the checkerboard, shall we? That is, if it fits. It's still going to be actually a bit of a squeeze, so... Yeah, very much having to squeeze it all on. I'm literally unpicking every hem available. And I did actually find the pocket of the black pair of trousers, which I'd put in one of my scrap bags. So I managed to get that out, unpick the pocket and get one of the pieces out of that, so that was good. Okay, so I managed to get all of those pieces cut out of those two pairs of trousers. It was a bit of a squeeze. My cat. Philip, come here. Come here. This is Philip. Still got a few bits of scrap from those trousers left over there, so I'll put them in the old bag. If anyone's got any ideas on what I could make with like 100 trouser pockets, then I'm all ears. Okay, so now I'm going to choose the fabrics for the binding of the straps and also the piping that will go around the front of the bag. Okay, so I've got a few options. I've also cut this out for padding the back piece and the straps as well. I got it given to me and it kind of feels like wetsuit fabric. Not that easy to sew with, but I'm going to use that. Ignore these because these are going into the seam allowance, so that's going to be kind of the top bit of the bag, and then that actually seems like it could look quite funky. Just find a colour that's going to look good to go around the edge here. I'm thinking not that. I mean, it does kind of go. I'm not sure. I'm not vetoing it completely. See this blue. It's a bit more cheerful. Do you know what I'm thinking actually? Like white. I might just go with black as well. The blue's okay. Very light pink. Okay, I quite like this actually. Yeah, that's definitely, I think, winner so far. Finally, there's this one. Kind of like a peachy, nice fabric. Okay, actually that's not too bad. That's quite cool as well actually, because it's quite bright. So what was it? The pink or the peach? They both look good. I think I'm going to go for the peach actually. Seems a bit more of a wild card, but if we're going for it, you know, we might as well go for it. Oh, and you know, now we can look at linings. Okay, so I'm already kind of thinking this is quite apt. I love that. It makes me think of kind of like 1950s dinner ladies. This is also pretty snaz. I like that a lot. This, although if this is all there is, I don't know, it's quite thin, but would there be enough? I don't know, but that's quite cool as well. It's got to be something like random and a bit mad. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's have a look at, I think it's got to be one of these four. Let's have a look. First up, this one. I mean, obviously, it definitely goes. This design kind of goes with that design. Colours are good. I feel like we've got some strong contenders here, though, because this, again, where you've got that little pop of that bright colour, it's quite dramatic. It's a bit more of a dramatic vibe, and I like it. I don't know which one out of those I prefer. Now, let's hope these aren't as good. Oh, actually, that's really funky as well. That'd be really fun. This is really fun and cool, but I think we can rule it out because it just isn't elky enough. That's good. That's good and it's dramatic. These are good because they're funky and they're a bit random and they go with that. Surprised at myself here actually, but I think I'm going to go for the black. So I'm feeling like the scuba fabric is going to be quite hard to sew with, so I'm getting a bit of Vilene and I'm going to cut out 4 pieces the same size as my straps and then stick that on, basically make a kind of scuba strap sandwich, if you will. So I'm just ironing on the Vilene and then I'm going to put pieces of scuba in between, another layer of the Vilene, and strap on top of that, put a bit of cloth over that and iron that, and then that's all nice and kind of stuck together. Hopefully that's going to go through the machine really nicely and really easy. So this actually worked so well when I put it through the machine, it just went through like butter. So I'm just doing this to line down the middle to kind of hold it in place, and also I think it looks quite nice. So I'm just sewing all the pieces together that I had to cut in half, so where they're going to be half black and half grey. I just actually cut the pieces out and interfacing as per the pattern, then added a little bit of seam allowance on when I cut them, just so I can get them together. I'm actually getting quite excited about how this bag's gonna turn out now. I'm kind of seeing some bits of the black and grey coming together. I was a tad worried. I was just making a bit of a kind of wacky-backy teenagery bag before, but might still be the case, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Here's the back. I'm going to put that on here and quilt that on. Normally when I quilt the back of these backpacks, I just do a line straight down the middle and then zigzags going into it, but because this is different colour on both sides, and when I used to make them, I actually used to do all sorts of, when I first started making them, I used to do all sorts of different patterns to quilt the back. So I'm probably going to do some triangles coming in from each side like that, which might look quite cool. So then I can do black and grey. Then I'm going to have this side, which will be in kind of opposite. So that will start from there and go around there, which will look quite cool. The front, which will be like that, starting to kind of come together. What I need to decide before I bind the edges of the straps, which is what I'm going to do next, is which way up I want them. Do I want them both black, both grey, one black, one grey on those sides, or one black, one grey on those sides, which is kind of, I think, what I'm heading for, because I think, you know, if we're going to go for it, we might as well go for it, checkerboard wise. That'll be the top of that and the top of that. I'm going to bind these. So I just cut some strips of that peachy fabric, bias strip, so on the diagonal, and I'm just
sewing them down each side of the strap. When I get to the bottom, I'm just going to cut some slits in to kind of take me around that quite sharp bend. This bit's a little bit fiddly, but I just go slowly, try and get it as neat as I can. And then we're going back up the other side. And then I'm going to take it to the ironing board and just using a little cloth to kind of protect the fabric, just iron those pieces out flat. Okay, now I'm just trying to get like a really neat corner on the, like around the top bit, kind of pressing it over, melding it down a little bit with my fingers. I like to try and get as neat a corner as I can here, kind of bendy bit. Although, however, it does have to be said, I will be covering that up with the D-rings and the kind of fastenings later. But, you know, still nice to know it's nice underneath. So I'm just kind of folding this over as I sew and just making sure to really hold it down everywhere with all my kind of fingers and toes. I like to try and get it as tight as possible because otherwise it can have a bit of a tendency, you know, like to wrinkle up a bit. And I'm not really a fan of that. Who is? But yeah, getting the binding right on these straps and like it being kind of perfectly neat the whole way around, I'd say is probably definitely the hardest part of this bag. But, you know, I try my best. Again, trying to get a really nice, neat bend, even though I'm going to cover it up anyway. But I think it's always good practice to always be practicing. And that looks pretty neat, I'd say, so I'm happy with that.
Okay, so I've got the two straps there. I'm going to put some of this tape on the end there with a couple of D-rings for the fastening. So I've just pinned the back piece to its padding and sewn a line from the top down the centre. And then I'm going to draw on some line to attach it onto this, but also they're going to be decorational as well. Okay, so I've just marked these on. I'm going to just make sure that I sew the grey ones with grey because I'm going to be sewing it from this side and then black ones with black because that seems like the kind of mistake I would make.
Oh golly, yeah, I didn't really enjoy sewing with this scuba diving fabric. To be honest, it probably would have been better to sew from the other side, but then I would have somehow had to mark those markings on. Anyway, I persevered. It wasn't that fun. I'm just ironing a little bit of that cotton strap to make a nice little bit for the hanger. And then I've kind of got all the bits ready to put on to finish my bag. So I've got two long pieces of the cotton strap, a couple of these shorter pieces, which I'm going to thread a couple of D-rings on to fold the ends over and sew them onto the bottom of my straps. And then that's going to be a kind of fastening and it makes it nice and adjustable as well. So put one of those on the other strap as well.
Okay, well, it's come to the end of the day, kind of, so I'm going to have to stop there. But after kind of going through some ups and downs about whether, you know, they're the right fabrics and stuff, I'm actually quite enjoying how it's evolving into a bag. Though I have to say, I will never be using this scuba diving thing for this again because it just had a mind of its own and it was, yeah. Fine for the straps, but obviously I glued them in place first, so that helped. But what I've done here is I've just sewn around the edge, catching down the two straps, the little hangy bit, two long bits which will attach to there. I love it when it gets to this part because it starts to really resemble, I love these bits as well, I think they work really well. It starts to really resemble a bag and that's quite exciting. I've also pinned, before I went to the machine, I pinned this on the other side, which is the lining, so that's already, so that is the back piece completely finished actually now. So we can, so tomorrow I'll be putting the zip in here. I actually went for a grey zip because when I got the black zips out, because this isn't actually like true black, it just looks a bit odd with an actually black zip, so I went for this quite big chunky grey one. And then for the top, which will be encased in these two grey bits, it would have been nice to have a black and grey here, but black was a bit gold dusty. So yeah, so that'll be the top with this nice white zip, and then obviously I'll attach that to the bottom, then that piece will be done. And then, oh yeah, make some piping up, go around the edge, and then back to the sides, front to the sides, and that'll be that. Hopefully, I thought it was raining, it's just my iron. Okay, hopefully it won't take me all day tomorrow. I was hoping I was going to finish this today. Yeah, so yeah, see you tomorrow. Okay. Good morning, next day. Right, I've got everything up here because if I leave like a shred of fabric out, my cats will just sleep on it. Okay, I did actually get a few little bits done yesterday, so let's have a look at that. So before I stopped yesterday, I actually managed to get both of the zips in. So I've got this piece. This is like the top of the backpack. I like this zip because it's got like a nice little handle. Loving the lining. Absolutely really happy with that choice. I think like this, although the pink was good, I just feel like this kind of, it packs a bit more of a punch. I like that a lot. This one. So it's basically, I've done it in the same way where you've kind of put the zip in and then the linings are like that, and then one just folds over in order for this to then become the pocket on the front. So that looks nice. I like the monochrome. Yeah, so with this, what I can do now is I'm going to pin on, maybe give this a quick iron actually. That's a cat. This is my front lining piece. So I'm just going to pin that to the back before I then make up the piping and pipe around this whole piece. And then once I've done that, front and back will be done. I can attach the side to one whole piece. Actually, what I'll do, because I've put this quite big grey zip in, I like to just check it still lines up with the pattern, which as you can see it's grown a bit. So I might have to just overlook a bit off the top there and snip a bit off the bottom. Because the thing is, once you've made this piece into one long round piece, that's it, that's the measurement. And once this is piped, if this isn't the exact same measurement as the piped edge, it's just going to look not very good. So yeah, I'm just going to adjust the size of this a bit and then carry on.
So what am I looking for here? I've forgotten. Oh yeah, the piping. So some cord, basically. This is actually some cord I got from a charity shop, and it was just a roll of macrame thread, which does the job pretty well. And now I'm also looking through this box of lovely vintage bindings, bias bindings and stuff. For what I was looking for was some black bias binding, which I didn't seem to find. But obviously, as you can see, the perfect bias binding is just there. She's not seen it yet. Oh yes, there it is. Some red. So that's going to look really nice. I also pulled out a little bit of tape from that box because where I've now got a centre bottom seam, which I wouldn't normally have, I just kind of worried that it was creating a little bit of a weak point. So I'm gonna sew this piece of tape down on either side of the seam and just make sure that's really strong, like that. Okay, so I've got some more bias strips. Oh yeah, I'm just entangling a kind of mass of macrame thread actually before I start this. But yeah, got some bias strips of that peach fabric and just making some piping up with that cording as well. I'm going to stop sewing just a little bit towards the end because I want to fold that bit over. So now, oh, I've got these amazing new scissors courtesy of a follower from Instagram, which is just so kind. So I'm going to be using them and cutting exactly 1 centimetre away from the stitch line all the way along. And then, yeah, so folding the end over, I'm just going to line up the end with the bottom, centre bottom of my bag, and then start sewing a little bit away from that, snipping as I go around the corners. I'm really trying also not to pull the piping so that it's not tight across the bag at all. Also going really carefully because I've got this big metal zip, so kind of just using my hand to wheel the needle over that really carefully. You shouldn't really need to snip it around this curve because it's kind of not so dramatic, but yeah, just making sure that it's not tight anywhere is the main thing. I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm really glad I went with the peach piping. I think it's looking quite all right. So yeah, being careful over that metal zip again. Such like a random tapestry. I swear in the corner bit near the zip, it looks like there's an avocado. Not sure if it is or not. Okay, so around that corner again. And then when I get here, I'm just making sure I've got that fold there, snipping away a bit of that cord and then pulling this piece of cord over. I can't really see now, but yeah, snipping that right up to so it meets the others, so the two are perfectly met. And then I'm just gonna fold and try and make that look all as seamless and as neat. Obviously there is a seam in the middle, but you know what I mean. As neat as possible, sewing over that and hoping for the best really, so that looks okay. Although it could be lined up with the centre a bit more. Oh well. I am liking this colour combo though, so that's good.
Okay, we're getting there now. I've done the side. So that's like one big continuous loop that's going to join them both together now. I've just realised though I have made a bit of gone a bit wrong. Whereas what I wanted was all the colours to kind of be opposite. And where I was always looking at it this way around, for some reason, obviously, that's really annoying, but that was meant to be grey, and that was meant to be grey and black, so that when this went on, it separated and it made it a checkerboard. So it would have been like that, and then black and grey again. However, when I sew this on to be a checkerboard there, these two bits are going to match. I mean, obviously the only way I could resurrect that would be to either unpick the whole of the front or unpick the whole of the back, and quite frankly neither of those things are going to happen. You know, it's a little bit of a shame, but it's not, I'm definitely not going to go back and unpick the whole bag and start again over it, but that's just that. But anyway, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I think it's still going to look pretty cool. It's still a pretty cool bag. I really like how this looks. I feel like it looks very arty, which I like. Yeah, so with the paint splattery, it's all coming together. So now what I'm going to do is pin this like that all the way around the edge so that it's like that.
So I have pinned it all the way around the front piece, and now I'm just popping the back on top of that. I'm going to pin this all the way around again. Once again, kind of regretting the scuba fabric, but yeah, not the easiest one to pin through.
Okay, that's all that pinned up. So I'm going to sew these together on the machine and then bind off those edges, this nice red drama. And then we're going to turn it inside out and see what it looks like.
So I'm just using a couple of those little plastic clips to mark where my zips are, because let me tell you, I have broken a fair few needles sewing over those zips. So yeah, I'm just folding over the end of the binding before sewing this all the way around the edge. Oh, I like the colour. Yeah, I was looking for black, even though the red was right in front of me. I'm glad I didn't have any. This looks so much better. So now I'm just top stitching that binding down, and ooh, we're getting ready, getting nearly ready to see the final thing. Oh yeah, I remember now here. I was having a mare again with the scuba diving fabric, so I'll probably moan about that again in a minute.
Okay. Whew. I tell you, I'm not sewing with that scuba diving stuff again, that's for sure, but it came with loads of other fabrics when I got it, like padded fabrics, or different kind of fancy ones. And I've used them before and they were amazing, because normally I'm using like old quilts and stuff which vary in success, but that's kind of what happens when you're scooping up the fabrics in that way. Anyway, it's bound it off and it looks good anyway, even though it was a bit of a struggle. I think this looks like quite funky and dramatic. I am a fan, so I hope you're excited to see the inside, because I kind of am. You never know, you never really know how, when you're sewing it inside out all the time, you don't know how it's gonna look until the moment when it's completely finished. So, and you know what, I was thinking about how I mixed up this bit. I thought at least it's side to back rather than the front, because obviously the back you won't really see that being worn anyway. it'll be the front bit that's more obvious, so at least it was that way around. Every cloud. Oh, this is looking really sweet. I don't really know how to describe it. It felt like a wrist. I didn't know whether it was going to look too much like a kid's bag, but I think I really am actually quite a fan, surprisingly so. In fact, I've made quite a few backpacks now. I think this is up there with ones I like the best. I think this front, where it's so abstract, I think it had to have something a bit mad. When I think back to kind of putting the red cord up against it, just would have completely drowned it out. I think this really gives it a bit of panache. There's the back. I mean, it is pretty funky. I like this bright binding, mismatch. I mean, a bit of a shame about that bit, but are we going to cry over it? Not really, no. I think it's still pretty cool. And that, I love that lining. I think that was a good choice as well. I'm happy with my choices, which isn't always the case, but today, yeah, trefoed. Let me know what you think, because this isn't like everyone's cup of tea for sure, but I think it's actually more tasteful than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be really like Avril Lavigne Skater Girl, which isn't bad. I think it's a little bit more grown up than that, but then I don't know what grown up is, to be honest. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully see you next week.
So I know that I've had so many requests for the release of this pattern, and let me tell you that I just need to fix up a few little bits of the pattern, and then I'm going to make the pattern in Adobe. I'm going to record the tutorial for you, and then it will be all yours. And hopefully in the meantime, this has entertained and possibly inspired you to maybe even use a couple of old bits of trouser.